morning. Good morning. Good morning. On this lovely Friday morning, Easter Friday. I hope that you're going to have a lovely day today. And yeah, thank you for being here today. We'll see how many people pitch. I know it's a special day today. So one is torn between these things and commitments that you make. And I tend to stick to my commitments. There's other reasons also why I will still be doing these live streams. I've got some interesting news and things to share with you today. New guests that I want to announce. There's also some things that I've been thinking about, so I can get your feedback about, how we take this forward. Obviously, you've heard that lockdown has been extended. So with permission from the president himself, I've got permission to extend my show for another 2 weeks on a daily basis. So that's fantastic. So thank you very much. I didn't expect that for him to be that gracious to me and say, well, you can continue with this. It seems like it's going well. So we'll do that. Good morning, Malcolm. Welcome. Very happy to have you here. Thanks so much for joining me. Adrian Jordan, thank you for being back. And Cole van Vieren as well. Cole, welcome back. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Over on LinkedIn, I've got Shlanganani. Good morning. Sunny Bunani, Shlanganani. Terence, welcome back, Terence. Good to have you. Sirieta, thank you for being here. Salome, Serena, Neil Strydom, Kobus, good morning. Kobus got that spot on with his 35-day lockdown. Well, Kobus, you're going to be spot on until they extend it maybe a little bit more. But for now, you got it spot on because it would make sense. So well done on that. I don't think anybody can disregard that prediction. So good stuff. Today, I've got some interesting things that I want to talk about. And, I think I hopefully always have something interesting to talk about. But today, I'm really going to look at where can we find inspiration from outside our industry is basically what it's going to be about. But I'm going to be sharing two very particular stories with you of things that I personally experienced and that, it opened a new world for me. And the thing is, I am in the same industry as all of you, and I do operate in that space, but I do different things from you. I train and I consult, basically, and you look at the things that I've learned from them, even if I'm not a financial advisor, and then I take those things and I said, well, how can this relate to financial planning and what financial planners do on a daily basis, and how can we do things maybe a little bit differently? Because I think it's getting hard to really stand out. When you think you're very unique, and it is like that. I mean, I think I even wrote in the copy for today's session that you will always be unique, and I said it in another episode as well. You will always be unique. You will never be just the same. Even if I had a practice and you have a practice, and we follow the exact same process, and we have exact same contracts, and we have, even if we use the exact same forms and everything, just with our logos on it, the experience from the client will still be a little bit unique because my personality and your personality differ. That is the one thing that will never be the same. So you are unique. I'm not saying that you're not, but the question is, are we really standing out from the masses? Because it feels to me like, everybody's got a me too, that like we teach everybody to do everything in the same way. And the same way I've been working for a long time. And now things are drastically changing, and we really need to see how do we position ourselves differently. There's definitely someone that you can follow. You can watch videos on YouTube or read his books or listen to it on Audible. Is definitely, when it comes to things like positioning yourself as an expert, is someone like Douglas Kruger. He talks a lot about how do you position yourself as an expert in whatever industry you're in. It doesn't really matter. So those things are quite interesting to me as well. But none of the things that I want to share with you is based on any of his books or any of the things that he's spoken about. These are real life experiences and some light bulb moments that I had in between that. So good morning, Chart. Welcome. Nice to have you here. He says, blessed Easter to all of you. Thank you very much. Same to you. Goeiemôre, Jan. Jana, my oumata. Because bly jy is hier. So let's see what happened to Ironman. So last night we did a session on COVID-19 relief measures with Renate from Noble Prosperity. And I took it down because I felt it wasn't appropriate for the audience that we had. So yeah, it's standing here right next to me. I actually just left it down because I want to change the poster today. But yeah, no, it's still here. Don't worry. Iron Man is safe. All right. Good morning, Arun. Thank you very much for being here this morning. I'm really happy to see so many of you here. Thank you so much. Good morning, Rizan. Good morning, France. So France sent me a WhatsApp last night. He says to me, well, please don't stop the show now. There's 2 more weeks added. I won't, France. I just wanted to reaffirm my commitment. We're not going to stop. And maybe I can share with you just before we get into the things that I really want to discuss today is, because obviously this thing is taking on a life of its own. It's really been fun for me. I love what I'm doing here. I've committed to do it once a day during the lockdown. So even if they extend lockdown again, I will continue to do it once a day. But once lockdown is finished and we need to start really, delivering on a lot of other stuff as well, my plan is to change it to a weekly show. And I'm not sure whether it should be in the week or maybe on a Saturday morning. You can let me know. I don't know. But, for now, it remains as is. But what I am thinking is, because I want to mix things up a little bit and make it more interesting. So yesterday I had a meeting with someone and we were just discussing around, what can I do? Obviously, there's a number of things that I need to consider. But one of the things that we were speaking about is like obviously doing different things and the things that I love. And also, I think, one of the things that I definitely want to do is bring on more guests. So more people that specialize in specific things. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm not a specialist in all of those things. I would rather sort of focus more on the things that I'm really a specialist at and go deep on those things. But and then for other things that are very important. Good morning, Mark. The other thing that's very important is that I want to bring in then guests that can address the other things in more detail. So it may happen that in one show I discuss some of the concepts. And I won't necessarily just discuss something with you that I haven't tried or haven't done before myself, or things that haven't made a big difference in my business or in my personal life. Those are the things that I've been talking about up until this point. And but yeah, so more guests is definitely one of them. But then I'm also thinking about starting with segments in the show, so that, let's say, there's like standard sort of segments or standard things that we do in every show. There's a structure to every episode. If you think about a news show, for example, there's the news, then there's the weather, then there's the sport. So it's all to do with news. Good morning, Stephen. It's got all to do with that, but it's segments, and certain people like to watch some things more than other, and you know what to expect in that sense. So some of the things that I've been pondering last night is maybe so let's have a tech segment. So just 15 minutes, for example, where I show you how to do something practically on, whatever system or tool or app or whatever it is that I use. For example, how to set up a broadcast list, like physically show you, not just tell you, show you how to use it, how you send the message. So things like that, maybe an Excel tip or trick or 6 and something in Word, and whatever other tools we're using. Even I mean, you can let me know, like, for instance, let's say you're battling to do something in at work as an example, or in Xplan or whatever system you're using. Maybe we can discuss that in the tech thing of how to do that practically from that point of view. So yeah, so anything to do with tech, maybe I will just share with you some new things that came out. Maybe how to set up your antivirus so that you know that you're protected to the best of that system's ability, and things like that. Yeah, so that's the one part. Then the bulk of the thing will still be what I've been doing up until now. There will be a topic for the day, and then we'll focus on that. And then there should maybe be a last segment, whether it's a Q&A or whether it is I don't know. That's the part where I'm still like, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a work in progress. So any feedback that you've got or any ideas will be great. I'm really doing the show for you and to add a lot of value to you. And whatever I'm doing, I'm enjoying it. So it doesn't really matter to me what I'm doing, as long as I can be here for you. Then that's very, very cool. Yeah, so from that point, let's see. Adrian says we need Iron Man. Yes, I'll bring him back, I promise you. Alrighty, good morning, Peter, Heymand, and Kobus, everybody. I said hello over on LinkedIn, so thank you very much for being here. Let me just remove this things here off the screen, and then let me get my other stuff on. Alrighty. So yeah, so those are my thoughts. So when was it? Last year? Sure, I can't remember. I think it was around August. We went for I've always wanted to learn more about coffee. And I think that's also why this whole community was built around coffee. And look, I have Iron Man, but today I don't have coffee. Okay. But I love coffee. And, when I started off drinking coffee, it was the Friscos and the Recoffees and that, obviously, when we grew up. And I could never get filter coffee into my body at all. It was the worst thing. It was worse than olives, I think. And so I didn't do that. And I don't know, then somewhere I sort of got to drink wimpy coffee. And I think a lot of people, maybe that is their gateway into drinking. I don't just want to say proper, but like, more like where you're moving away from this quick, I don't know what that is in English, but a quick coffee sort of setup, instant coffee. And then you move all the way up to, where you drink things like these, like short words and small cups. And I can't do those things as well yet. But, and maybe it's also as your palate develops over time. But I then got to drink wimpy coffee, and I loved wimpy coffee. It was different whenever I had the chance, But I think also there's a lot of milk in there, so that's what I enjoyed, and in that, and then over time, started drinking cappuccinos. Which I remember that first cappuccino. It was somewhere between nice and what the hell's going on here. And obviously there was a time when I still drank a lot of sugar in my coffee and that. And then over time, you get more used to it. And so I've always had this yearning to sort of learn more about coffee. And because I couldn't understand, when I go to this coffee shop, then the cappuccino tastes like, I don't know. And then you go to that one and you're like, wow, this is fantastic. It feels so creamy and it feels so velvety. And it's just like, wow, can I have 6 more, please? And I just had this thing. And we were on holiday in Natal years ago, 2006, 7, I think. So it was a long time ago. But anyway, so we went to this coffee roastery there, and we went on a little tour where they showed us the everything, from where they start off as a berry, and then how they dry them, and then get the beans out, and then what it actually looks like. I never knew these things were green. And then, so they roast them and do all those kind of things. And, it was I learned a lot there, and it was cool. And then for a long time, obviously, just like as time went on, we don't drink wimpy coffee anymore. Don't drink, we do like the Jacobs, so we do have instant coffee and those things, but the Jacobs kind, not the Recoffee kind anymore. And it's not about being snobbish about coffee. No, definitely not. It is just, I think, once you start to know what good coffee tastes like, and you sort of form an appreciation for that. It's like anything. I told my wife a few times this week, you know what? There are certain things that my wife or my kids or other people, they don't put value on certain things. That's very important to me. And that's my personal choice and my personal view, where it's not like I get sentimental about stuff, but I do attach more value to certain things. So over time, I've learned that, good coffee makes a big difference about the enjoyment and everything. And then sort of I always wanted to say, I want to do a barista course. And then so barista is obviously the person making coffee, like, with the proper setup and everything. And then last year, the opportunity came where it was just like an introductory thing. And it was here in Mildersdrift at the Green Bean Coffee Roastery there at Casalingas. I don't know if you've ever been there. But myself and my wife and Wynand went. So you've heard me speak about Wynand often. It's a good friend of mine. And we went there for this little barista course. And it was quite enjoyable, But then I learned a lot there. And that's what this whole thing is about. So I even then went out and I wrote an article about this. And today I want to talk about it, just to share with you sort of the things that I learned, from that experience. And it only hit me like a day afterwards. But there is so many things that we can learn from that. And that was sort of also my first realization that we can learn so much from the way that other people do it. and that other industries do it, and that other businesses do it. And then there was another thing with a doctor, an experience with a doctor that I want to share with you that also like, okay, you see, so this is maybe a good idea for advisors as well to do it the way that they do it, just to follow that process kind of. And it may work for some, it may not work for some. So that depends. So I want to touch on that. And then just shortly after that, last year, Brendan Dunn from Verso Wealth, he also then posted an experience that he had at a doctor with his wife, I think, if I can recall. I didn't look it up again before this, but I know that he also wrote about it. And I think he then wrote a couple of times after that. So it's like, okay, but we're onto something here. It's about how can we learn from other industries? And I've mentioned this a few times, it wasn't just because it's a real thing. So that's why I mentioned it quite a couple of times in some of the other sessions already. So anyway, so let me talk about the whole barista experience. I mean, there was a lot of things that we were taught. Sorry, I just want to move things around here. There was a lot of things that we were taught on the day. I mean, I think the 250 Rand we paid for the day per person was wow, because we got to make many cups of coffee as well and drink them. Didn't sleep for 6 days afterwards, but it was a great experience. And sort of they teach you about everything. Once you start to know. I mean, the end of that whole thing, there was like, this is how you make a proper cup of coffee, and they refer to the golden cup. So that's that perfect cup of coffee with a crema on top. Have you ever seen, like, when you get coffee, sometimes you see there's a few, like, it looks like bubbles just drifting in the coffee. Okay, that's not good. When you have something where it's that brown, white crema, it's just a layer. It's like, is there milk in here? No, it's just the coffee. So when it makes that, it's perfect. They sort of taught us about how what it should look like when it comes out the machine, what difference it makes, how coarse or how fine the coffee is grounded, so the grind even makes a difference. Then obviously how dark or how light it's roasted, that we all know that. But a lot of people think that when you want to make stronger coffee, you need to put in more of the coffee. So instead of 1 spoon, you put in 2 spoons, and then you need a fork and a knife to sort of enjoy. But okay, so you learn all of these things, that it's how dark it's roasted that makes the difference about how strong or how weak the coffee is. And you get it like, okay, so this is what it is. And what I found afterwards is that I'm now able to distinguish, but I can even see, looking at the coffee, I sort of get an idea about what went wrong here. Like, why is this coffee so, like, not looking like coffee? Why is it tasting differently? We were also taught about, like, the different beans from different regions. So also, I can't remember the names now, but there's 2 types of beans. All I remember, because it's all that mattered, was that Arabica is the bean that you want. The other stuff it's like, the grade is not that great, and it's all over the place. But Arabica coffee, so if you ever go and buy coffee, by the way, so look at 100% Arabica, because sometimes they mix it with something else. Typically, if the coffee is cheaper, you can have a look at that. But all these things sort of, what it taught me is that, what difference does knowledge make? Because we get to learn, if I bring it back to financial planning, the more knowledge you have about financial planning, and I just want to focus on the technical side of it for a second. So the more knowledge you have, the more you realize the difference between good financial planning and not so good financial planning. We always said that, a policy is better than no policy. It doesn't matter what. But ultimately, if it could have been a lot better, because of the way you structured it and the things that you considered, and just maybe, there was something else to do rather than just a policy. Those are the kind of things that we get to understand. It's about much more at the end of the day, I think, than just matching needs with products. And I've seen that, and I've told the story a number of times to different people in different sessions, but so I'm going to tell it again. But just where I've seen in my life before, where we are taught how products work, all the features and benefits, who it's aimed at. So all of the things that TCF says must be done, we sort of are taught that around products. And then we start matching needs with products, and we say, well, that's the need. Oh, this feature, that need, this feature, and this will be the benefit for the client at the end of the day. But you learn, that for me is like, that's wimpy coffee. It's there somewhere in the middle. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's good. It's okay. But then the next step is like, okay, but if I really understand how these things work together, then you realize like, oh, there's other stuff that we could have done. Or maybe this product, although the features and the benefits match the needs, there are other similar products that do the same thing, but are a lot more efficient and effective at doing what it says it's going to do. Okay, so I just sort of picked up, like, as I learned more about coffee, I started to appreciate it more, and I started to realize what the difference is between good and not so good coffee. And I understood like why it's important to do certain things. And I think it's the same with our knowledge in terms of financial planning. Then this was a big thing. So we actually made coffee like on the machines. And it was quite interesting to learn, because I mean, how many times have you seen somebody use that espresso machine in a coffee shop? I mean, it's the thing, like all the steam and you see like, oh, that's hard work, because they need to clean everything. But there's a lot of things happening there that you don't even realize what they are actually doing while they are doing it. But here's the one thing. So we bought an espresso machine a number of years ago with the little pods, where a lot of people got upset because it's aluminium. But, it's the one thing with that machine is, and the reason why we bought it is we said, well, we're spending a lot of money on coffee in coffee shops. So let's get something that at least every time we make coffee and it's the same sort of capsule that goes in there, it'll be the same. So there's no, like, you know what to expect, and what you expect is what you get. And then, you learn to use the machine, and you open it up and put the pod in, or the capsule, and boom, 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 out comes the coffee, and there you go. So it's easy. But the one thing I realized when I did this course and they taught me how to use that espresso machine, is that one must really distinguish between, do I know how to use the machine, or do I know how to make coffee? Because there's a huge difference between using the machine, like switching it on, putting the capsule in, closing it. That's not making coffee. We tell ourselves it is making coffee, but it is not. That's the one thing that I learned definitely from this course. When I had to grind the coffee, and then you use the tamper to compress it, into the filter basket. I don't know what that thing's called. I can't remember, but it's that little thing that goes into the machine where the coffee actually sits in. The pressure at which the coffee of the water comes through, the fact that you don't use boiling water and things like that, but then how much water and all of that's got to do with how fine that grind is, how much you've compacted it, and then the pressure at which that water comes through. There's sort of a way that they talk about a rat's tail. When that coffee comes out, it must look like a rat's tail. So sometimes you must watch when somebody makes coffee. Sometimes it drips, it breaks. It should be a constant flow, and it should be thick at the top and then goes like thinner to the bottom as it goes into the cup. Like it looks like a rat's tail, and that sort of shows you that the grind is fine, the pressure is fine, everything is fine. And there are guidelines for these things, obviously, but it's quite interesting that it really makes a big difference. And then I think the hardest thing was you are also taught about the like the milk, when you do. So if you do just an espresso, that's what we started off with. You just do espresso, and that was cool. But then you go off and you talk, and they teach you to make a cappuccino. So now you've got an espresso, and then you have the milk. Okay. We also did latte. So the only thing so there's a small difference between the two. But when you make a cappuccino, that milk, okay, you need to heat it up. So that thing that they do with the steamer, it's to heat up the milk, number one. But number two, it's also to create what they call microfoam. So that's that velvety, and here's the thing. So I thought, very interesting enough, I don't know if you know this, but when you get that velvety, smooth milk, sometimes there's these big bubbles and it feels like wimpy coffee. And then if you really have a good cappuccino, as I said, it's this velvety, smooth, like this is brilliant. And what that is I said, well, okay, so obviously you use full cream milk to do that, because for me, the more cream, or the thicker the milk, the better it will be. And that was actually never the case. So we were taught that, no, it's about the protein content. So the higher the protein content, the better that microfoam will come out. And then also, I don't know, you must look at this, where if they hold the what you call it, when you hold that little mug thing that they got the coffee in and that they used to steam it in, they are always touching the side of that thing because they can feel with their finger how hot it gets. If you go too hot, then the foam doesn't work, and that's often also the problem. So they use milk with low protein, and they make it too hot, and then you lose that velvety, silky thing. But I mean, the whole point about me telling you all of this is that even knowing all of this stuff, it doesn't mean that I can make coffee, number one. And we must be very clear between being able to use the machine and being able to make coffee. It is not the same thing. It is the same as about recommending products and doing financial planning. It is not the same thing. The one is part of the other, and the one is just that enables you, but it doesn't mean that we know exactly how to do that. I think a lot of times as well is that I think what it comes down to really, apart from that, is that we have to practice what we know. We have to use the things that we learn. So we need to keep on learning, but then we need to use and try things. And unless we do that in practice, you're not gonna learn to make coffee in your practice. And that's also key from that point. So let me just see quickly. Malcolm says, like you say, you are doing this for us. I can experience that. How can we help you? Like invite a friend, colleague. I really appreciate this. Besides all else, it brings structure to my day. Thank you, Malcolm. Yes, I mean, the only thing I would it would be great if you could tell others, but tell the right people. This isn't about numbers. This is about having the right people in the community and people that really care about what it is that they do. They're very serious about what they do. They also care for others in the community, and they want to build this to a profession. Those are the kind of people that I would love to join us. I really don't want people who are negative and people who are, and I was saying if you get down for a bit or you're negative for a period, I just think they are chronically negative, or just all they want to do is point out what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with financial planning, but yet they still do so. So I don't want those kind of people, to be clear about it. So, but everybody else is more than welcome, whether you're new to the industry or whether you've been here, since it started, years ago. Everybody's more than welcome. So yeah, if you can pass on and get the right people to join us, that'll be fantastic. Heavenly Coffees in Centurion, owner is roasting the beans himself. Yes. And have you ever been to Industrial Coffee Works? They are also not bad. They're there where PPS is, also in Centurion. They're also quite good. So we can maybe talk at the end, who are the coffee places to visit, because also when we work from home, we would love to do that. So Peter says, I still remember Alice Brown coffee. Yes, like now you're taking me back. Yo, that's a long time ago. Let me see. I did say hello. Good morning, Renate. With creamers, Peter. Yeah, it's not inside. It's on top. You remember those. There you go, Peter. Sorry. I'm a coffee snob. Yes, Terence. High five, my brother. With your knowledge and understanding, Peter says, of the potential of technology, have you considered starting to put together an advisor group who are bound together by ethics and technology? No, I haven't, Peter. It is something I can think about. For now, I just want to focus on the things that I'm busy with, but that's definitely something to consider. I don't want to spread myself too thin currently. I spend a lot of time on creating content and obviously bringing things to people. So that'll be my focus for now, but it's something to keep in the back of my mind. So thank you very much. Alrighty, so then let's continue. We've got some interesting points I want to share with you. You know what? This was one huge thing. And I've learned this. Yesterday I spoke about my hobbies, right? So I shared with you the painting and all of the stuff. And tomorrow we're going to paint again. But I've watched hours and days, I think, maybe even months of videos that I've watched about painting models and how you mix your paint and how thick or thin it should be, how you do shading and highlights, and how do you get that effect so that, like object source lighting, like where are the light coming from, because you can create that illusion with paint. Now, it's the same with coffee, all right? I mean, we stood there while they were showing, because I think there were 8 of us. They only take small, like there's only place for about 8 people, I think, at a time. And there were 8 of us. And, I was watching how they first explain how to make the coffee. They demonstrate, they show. And then it was the one person after the other making the coffee, and they make the coffee. And I thought, you've got this. That's easy. Yeah, until you hold that thing in your hand. So once you grind, it's like already something, oh, this feels weird. Okay, and then it goes, and then you say, okay, so now you need, at least the tamping thing is easy, because you just press down on it, and it makes it a nice little cake, if you will. Put it into the machine, that's easy. And then you obviously put it on. So then you need to see for how long does the water need to run, because it's not like an espresso that runs, this particular amount of water through that. And again, the machine is programmed, so you don't know. You just put it on, and there you go. You've got 3 settings, and that's it. And so, yeah, when I stood there, now you need to, okay, here it comes out. Yes, that is fine. Because they let you sort of, do the grind and everything, and show you how to get that rat style. Anyway, so it goes in, and that's fine. So the espresso was quite easy, and I thought, no, I've got this. This is easy. And then we started making cappuccinos, and it looks easy. I mean, you just have the milk there in the steamer, and like does all the things, and blah, blah, blah. But then when you go and stand there, and you do that, and you need to feel the temperature, you need to keep it at a certain angle, and you move it up and down usually a little bit to make sure. And then the big thing comes when you take that. So you have the coffee in the one hand, the milk in the other. And then I got confused. Like, I don't know, like I'm right-handed. So I didn't know, should I have the coffee in my right hand and the milk in my left hand, or the coffee in my left hand and the milk in my right hand? Because now I need to do 2 things together. That started feeling like learning to play piano. So you have this coffee, and then what you need to do is you need to swirl it a little bit. Now, I don't know, take your not your strong hand, the other one, whichever the one that may be for you, and try and swirl something that's in a cup that size, and you try and swirl it without spilling. And then at the same time, you need to pour it in at a certain angle so that it mixes properly. And, there was a way to do it. And then and that's when I learned, you can watch this as much as you want. You can, the painting as well, until you pick up that brush. There's no way you can understand, what's about to happen. So the lesson there is we need to implement and practice the things that we learn, because you have people that they will learn a lot and do nothing with it. And then there are people who learn nothing and try and do a lot. So it's actually combining those 2 approaches, where you need to learn a lot, but then you need to practice and actually implement it. And I honestly think that we should be challenging ourselves to get that client that pushes us to the next level as well. Often you're trying to grow your business, but the problem is we keep working with the same people all the time, and we can only do so much for that group of people. So if you really want to make more money, you've got to add more value. So we need to start focusing on people, and that's going to push you to, again, up your knowledge, and again, practice what it is that you've learned. And that's how you get better. And we shouldn't be afraid to do that. There's also enough support out there to help you, in those things. Even if you get a little bit into a position where, this feels a little bit uncomfortable for you. And then maybe I've alluded to some of this already, but the importance of educating clients. Because now that they've taught me things, and there's other things that they did. So after we practiced and made 600 cappuccinos and we're on a coffee high and almost a caffeine overdose, they then took us to another place where they now started teaching us about how you actually, or how the coffee roasters, how they, or the coffee, what do they call them? I can't remember. But anyway, the people that would grade the beans and sort the beans and things, how do they decide, or the people actually, I think it was the buyers of coffee, how they go and how they test coffee, to decide, do I want to buy this or do I want to buy that, and what they're looking for. So they talk about cupping. So yeah, it was just a very interesting experience where it was the beans, and then they throw just hot water on it. And then what they do to get rid of some of the things. And then with a spoon, you would actually, take a bit and then sip it. But it's almost like tasting wine, the same kind of thing. And then how you get to learn about the differences in the different beans. And we got to taste like Arabica beans versus that other one that I can't remember. There's a reason I can't remember the other one, because it was not good. But those are the kind of things, and I think now by educating me, one, I've got an affinity for green bean coffee roastery, because it felt like, wow, they created new experiences for me. And this is a lasting experience, right? So apart from the day being fantastic, I'm now able to decide where I drink my coffee and how I like my coffee. And if something's not right, to sort of ask for them to change it, or whatever the case may be. So my experience with drinking coffee has been enhanced forever. And maybe for some people coffee is not important, but there's definitely something that is very important to them, and it's to find that thing really is what it's about. But for me, it's like now suddenly, as somebody that didn't know that much about coffee, and I still don't know much about coffee, I definitely don't, but I'm able to have conversations that I wasn't able to have before. The conversations when you go there and you want to buy coffee and you have a discussion with Lee, and I can't remember the other lady's name that's there, but you can have a conversation around this, and you just get more engaged, and you partake more into these kind of things. And if you bring that again back to financial planning, it'll be the same thing. And I know we say we educate our clients, but the problem is, when they come and visit you for their review meeting, we've only got so much time to sit with them. And also people's attention span is only so long. So it's really hard to really educate them just in the meetings. But we really need to have a sort of a strategy or a plan about how can I educate people, on an ongoing basis. How can I reach them in a way that is really valuable to them, or that they prefer? What is their Mariette talks about the communication styles. I don't know much about that part, but there's definitely, something that, like, I would prefer to watch a video, for example. Somebody else would prefer to read an article, for example. Someone else may just want to listen a little bit to what you say, and other people just want to teach me something when I see you, kind of thing. So we need to understand about what they prefer from that, or in that sense. But it's just important, because and sometimes I think advisors are afraid to teach their clients too much, because then they're not going to need me anymore. And that is simply not the case. The more we can teach them, the more they can engage in their own planning, the more they can get involved in their own planning, the more they recognize, this is a life-changing event, or this is a very important event in my life. I need to ask questions to my financial advisor. It builds trust. It obviously, in times like we're going in now with markets, if we've been teaching clients and doing that, at least, it's now much easier to say, oh yeah, but you know what? So remember, so let me go back again to what we spoke about before. And a lot of you do that. I've worked with many advisors where, I asked them, so how's it going now? And said, maybe I have 3 or 5 calls, because there will always be somebody that panics. But, the bulk of them are sort of more like we understand, and specifically if they have time, obviously if they don't have that much time, it may be more of an issue. But it's really, really important to educate clients and to make sure that they can engage in the conversation, because that's what you want. The last thing you want is sitting there talking at clients and they just sit there and they say, okay, thank you, and where do I sign? And then when they get in the car, he tells his wife, like, thank you, that the coffee was nice, but I'm not 100% with, but it's good. I trust him, or I trust her. So we need to up that game for them and for ourselves as well. All righty. Yes, you're right, Arun. There's great coffee at 44 Stanley. Absolutely. I've had coffee there a couple of times. Topic suggestions, given the current lockdown, maybe how to submit the claim to UIF, etc. Also discussing who it applies to. Yes, I've also had another suggestion to talk about COVID-19 relief measures. The concern was that it may be too heavy, but we are able to distill that down to something simple. That's exactly what Renata did last night on her webinar. And it was just having it simple. And this is one of those topics where, look, although we've got the accounting and the tax practice, I don't get involved in these things. My partner, Ida, is an absolute, like, she can recite these things in her sleep. She's written guides and packs that will take you through step by step and all of it, depending on what is applicable. So we're about to release that now. Renata has researched a lot of things to make it available and let people know what's going on. Sunette from Legal Sense, they do a lot of labor related things. She was also part last night of, and these people are all in my group, by the way. So I've spoken about the collaboration that we're doing. So I've built a team of people, I haven't built a team, but I've brought a team of people together, and we work together as a unit. So we'll talk about that soon, I guess, because we've got some structure going, and we've been working together now for some time. But within that group, we can offer all of those kind of things to help people. So whether you want knowledge and just be able to help your clients yourself, we can help you with that. Or then if there are clients, we've got the things that they can obtain in order to help them. So that's a good idea. Thanks, Arun. Yesterday, I had a query from a client who's a sole proprietor. She's providing essential services in a rural area. The police came by asking for a permit to trade. Maybe you can discuss the process. Yes, we will. So I think there's definitely a need, because we get these questions now as financial planners and that to look at it. Good morning, Alan. Welcome. I don't know if I said hello earlier. Sorry. Hello. Having an interactive and inclusive advice. So Peter says having an interactive and inclusive advice process helps. And here I am talking from experience. It may take an hour or two longer, but in the long run, and it takes, and at times like this, clients tend to be a bit more accepting and understanding. Yes. Yeah, so a lot of the things, I mean, I can say this. So I think we've done a lot of things to enable people to adjust to the virtual way and technology way of doing things now, to try and make it easy. So there is the Zoom training that we've done. So that's still available if you want to learn how to use Zoom. And a lot of the things we teach you in that session, you can apply to any other system that you want to use. Then I've just created another an hour-long training session on how to run, or how to create a great virtual customer experience. And I did that for one of the corporates, and they are very, very happy with how it came out. So we will make it available to others as well. I've already offered it to a few other corporates and that. But I plan on also making it available then on Circulus online. That will be a little bit of a paid course, but it won't break the bank. And I think there's a lot of value in terms of that. It's very practical. It comes from really things that you can practically use. It's not theoretical or academic in such. So that'll be somewhere next week probably, because the time is obviously now that people want to learn this. And again, that training is. Sorry, that training is system agnostic. Again, it's about the technology, how you interact with the client, how you prepare for that meeting, what you do, how you run things throughout that meeting, and what happens afterwards, how you handle appointments, how you handle cancellations of appointments. So there's a lot of things that we're doing there to enable people. But also, I think the next step is what you may be referring to, Peter, is sort of the whole infrastructure around that. So that's definitely something that we'll also touch on in future. All right, shortly, not like way in the future. All righty. So my next point then is about the perception of value. And if you really think about these things, so what happened here? I mean, this whole thing for me about, I never wanted to pay a lot for my coffee. Like I would usually go for the cheapest coffee, because I mean, if you buy packets of coffee, whether it's beans or whether it's already grounded, it's a lot more expensive than if you bought coffee or, and also you get some coffees that are 90 Rand for a little 250 gram bag. And I think you even get ones as high as 120. But typically they're around 60 Rand. So anything above 60 Rand really is like, okay, this is more expensive. And I never knew, like, that's why, if you don't know better, you always go for the cheapest. That was now it's like, no. These are the things that I'm looking for. And I actually read the labels and look at it and say, no, this is the coffee. And obviously over time, you sort of learn to what brand and what sort of roast and all of that you like. And then you just go for that. So it's not every time, it's not a research expedition or anything. But, my perception of the value went up. It skyrocketed. If you have Arabic, 100% Arabica coffee, the region that it comes from, the roasts that you particularly like. So there's a whole host of things that you look at, how these things were grown, and is it like, are people doing it in a proper way? And then suddenly, like a coffee of $85, a packet of 250 gram coffee beans, that's totally worth it. Suddenly I pay that with a smile. Whereas just a week before that, I refused to pay more than 60 Rand for that. And even that felt to me like, this is crazy. And going back to the points that I made, I mean, if you think about what happened to my knowledge, so in terms of coffee now, so my knowledge was better. I understood what the difference was between good and not so good coffee, and what caused that. I learned not only to use the machine, but to actually make coffee. So that was important. I got to practice what it is that I learned, because just watching and reading about it is really not making any difference. You can come from a point and debate things from a theoretical point of view, but that's not going to prove anything unless you've done it. And yesterday I spoke about action over words. So we need to do that. And then, just this whole thing, because I now felt this affinity towards Green Bean Coffee Roastery, because they were the ones that taught me all of these things, and that gave me an opportunity to practice and do all of these things. Suddenly all of that together, I mean, nothing's happened to the coffee. It's the same coffee, it's the same bag, it's the same packaging, it's the same everything. But suddenly I'm willing to pay the 85 Rand, and I don't have an issue. I don't want the 60 Rand one anymore. And a lot of people are like that. So by doing all these things, you can exponentially actually increase the perception of the value that you bring to the table. And maybe it's not a perception. Maybe it is exactly what it is. You are bringing a lot of value, but because we never do these things with clients, we don't get them to see it. So that's the thing. So that's sort of my story, around my coffee experience and how it relates back maybe to what we do. But I mean, just look at that. I mean, even if you take the same story, if you want, go to when we're allowed to, go to Green Bean Coffee Roastery, go do their barista. I think they do it once a month. Go experience it for yourself and see how you can make this story applicable to your clients. So not only how do you implement it in your business, or how do you use that to sort of find inspiration and see how you can do things differently, because there's lots more to this. The whole way they treated us, the whole way we were welcomed, the whole way, it was just an amazing thing. So it just showed me, when you just do that little bit extra and you smile a little bit, what difference that can make. But anyway, so yeah, and then you can sort of, like this session that I'm doing with you, you can sort of have the same conversation, or write an article, or make a video that you send to clients to say, you know what, I just thought in your business, maybe this is something where you can find some inspiration, because these lessons we can apply to any kind of business. It doesn't matter what you're in. You can use this to your benefit from that point. Alrighty. Kobus says Renatus was very good last night, but it was complex, technical, and heavy. You would lighten it for us maybe, and keep it understandable for the man in the street. Yes, that's what I do. That is what I do. And also, I think, I will chat to Renata and Ida as well, because we saw the kind of questions that was asked. But I'm going to bring it more from a point of view of to help you help your clients possibly. And at least that, if you want more information where you can get help, I think that's important. Peter, in determining a risk profile, use some tools. I'll get back to that. Bronwyn says, these sessions have been of great value to me. I'm third-party sales. Oh, I've done that my whole life. So I know what's that like. But the information from your talks helped me with my broker appointments. Really appreciate it. It's a big pleasure, Bronwyn. And thank you very much. You've been here most of the days. So really, really from my side, thank you very much. Surieta, something small I find giving clients good coffee. To my surprise, I had even had a few comments from clients on this and helped to build the right brand. Yes, you must invite me as well for a meeting. I want to come taste the coffee. The whole experience from the coffee to the environment to the correct value add. Yes, and this is maybe something, and I have spoken a little bit, I think, about customer experience, but there's another story that I can tell you about Portfolio Metrics when I visited their offices last year. And also some realizations that I had there. There was the other one where I visited an accountancy practice in Bedford View, where I also had some realizations. So there's a lot of these stories that I can share with you. and that maybe we can take client experience a little bit further. It is on my list to do so. So these things are helping a lot. Thank you. We can definitely chat about that as well. Peter says perceptions are sometimes created by illusions, and illusions can be easily shattered by experience. Getting philosophical now. Yeah, sorry, Peter. Hold back. Just kidding. It is, and that's the thing. So and maybe perception is the wrong word, because it's more about the experience. But the perception of value, that is exactly that. So it is all of these things working together. It is not only creating a false sense of value, but then you don't deliver on what those things are, because that's the danger. And I see this a lot in corporate. So they're going to implement a new system, and then the managers go out and they just, because let's just say they have an existing system, and people are moaning and complaining, and for whatever reason. And now after weeks or months of due diligence and decisions and whatever, now they decide that they're going to move to another system. And managers run out there and they just tell all their advisors that this is going to be fantastic. The system, like, it captures everything for you. It makes calls to your clients. You don't even, all you need to do is just show up for the appointment. This system will do everything. And I'm just exaggerating now. So there's no system like that yet, but I'm just exaggerating. But that's the kind of expectation. So you create this perceived value of this, wow, this is going to be fantastic. And then when it gets implemented, it's pretty much the same as the other system that they have. Maybe another look and feel and whatever, but it's not that much better. And the problem is we set the bar for the expectation too high. Because one of the things I spoke about in one of the other sessions is managing and setting expectations. So never forget that. So you don't want to go and drive up the perceived value to a point where you can't deliver on it. But the thing is, if you're already delivering a lot of value and people are not seeing it, okay, because that is something that happens a lot. Now you can, through doing these things, you can just you still do what you're doing. You don't need to do anything new, just because you know already I'm adding a lot of value, but my clients are not, it's like they don't care. So now you can drive up that perceived value, and that's what I'm talking about. All right. Oh, sorry, Sirieta. We have a menu with Quibus. Yes. Yeah, Quibus, I want to chat to you. I've got an idea, by the way. I will make contact with you later today or tomorrow, maybe not today, but tomorrow. Anyway, so I've experienced the menu with Quibus. It's quite cool. But I'll let him tell you about that. Alrighty, so then the last thing I want to sort of touch on is a fee lesson that I had. Not free, a fee lesson. A lesson in charging fees that I had from a doctor. And I mean, for some people, fees are a sticky subject, whether you're a client or a financial advisor or, some businesses. It doesn't, that's not the point. But here's something that I want to share with you, because a lot of people talk to me about charging fees. How do they do it? I used to charge fees back in the day. And if I was a better prospector, I would have done better. But that was the best part of the last bit before I sold my practice, was when I started charging fees. And I'll definitely have a session on that to just share my experience with you around that and how I think people could approach this whole fee thing if that is something that you wanted to do. Over time, there was a time in my life when I was very pro fees, and that was the way to go, and there was nothing. I've come to learn through experience and through understanding, and that's also where I learned, like, all these theoretical things and dreaming nice or building nice dream castles, and there's got to be a balance. So we've got to do things differently, better. But even if you're aiming for there, just understand it's a journey to get there. You don't go from here to there in the click of a button. But anyway, so what happened here is that my wife went to a specialist doctor last year in Pretoria. And very thorough and very nice, and all the things speaking about this and this and this. And then I asked him, okay, so what is this going to cost? And he looked at me and he says, well, what do you mean? I said, how much is this going to be? And he says to me, I don't know. I don't focus on that. I focus on giving you the advice, doing the diagnosis, and telling you what needs to be done. I have no idea what this is going to cost. You need to go to the front. There's one of the ladies there. They deal with all the accounts and the fees and whatever. I don't want to be influenced by whatever I'm going to earn, so that I just say, well, we need to do this because I know I'm going to earn a lot of money. Now, did I believe him 100%? My skeptical self did not. But there's a lesson in that approach where he removed himself from this negotiating about fees thing, okay, and he made it someone else's duty. So, I mean, any person who's in a business, you should know more or less what you charge for what, right? But the thing is, he removed himself from that conversation. So one, I didn't waste his time with negotiating about this whole thing. Now suddenly you get to someone else, and it's always easy to negotiate with the owner of the business, right? It's not so easy to negotiate with somebody who just works there. So I just went there, what's this going to cost? And she said, yes, your quote, boom, this is it. Okay, when do you want to do it? There, son. Okay, that's what it is. And that was sort of an interesting lesson for me to say, you know what, maybe we should remove ourselves from this whole fee conversation if you want to charge fees, and maybe say, no. Sunette in the office, deals with that, for example, and she will tell you what this is going to cost. I don't deal with the fees. I focus on what you need and what is going to help you most. I don't know what it's going to cost. And then that's it, and you remove yourself. So I don't know. I haven't tried that in practice. So that's a theoretical thing, but I've experienced it in a doctor's office. There's other ways. I work with advisors that deal with or that work very much like a lawyer. If you can go listen to some of the podcast episodes where I've interviewed them. Really, really great content. And so I think that's maybe something to consider and see whether that's something that could work for you. Maybe think around that as a model. But I'll talk more about that when we have a fee discussion. Then so I've got a guest next week, Wednesday. I'm very, very excited to have Wessel Oosthuizen. Some of you may know Wessel, or all of you may very well know Wessel. Wessel used to be the head of financial planning law at the University of the Free State. He now runs Versa Wealth, which is part of the Galileo Capital Group, which is Warren Ingram and Theo Foster. So it's a subsidiary of that business. They're based in Cape Town. They've got offices all over South Africa, but he's based in Cape Town now. And me and him had a very nice conversation yesterday. And then based on that conversation, I asked him, Wessel, don't you want to come on the show? I think this is valuable that we can share to people. It's not going to be nothing about financial planning. It's not going to do anything with what we do. It was just, he helped me so much yesterday that, and he agreed to. So next week, Wednesday, Wessel is going to be on the show, and but I'll definitely let you know closer to the time. And so that's sort of my story. Let me see the last comments. Carl van Vieren says, thanks, Francois. Certainly coffee for thought. Yes, I like that. That's a cool way to put it. Alrighty. Okay, there's no more on LinkedIn. All right, guys, thank you so much. On that note, have a lovely Easter Friday with your family. Enjoy. Don't let this extra 2 weeks be an issue. Let's focus on what we can do and what we can control. And be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be here. I'll let you know what we're going to be talking about. And then I'm not going to work today, by the way. I decided I'm done. It's been a hectic couple of weeks for me, and I promised my wife I'm not going to work. I am going to do a braai though. So that's what we're going to do. Alrighty then. Thank you very much, and I'll chat to you soon. See you tomorrow.